Hi, welcome. Dr. Angela here with you.
Hi, Dr. Patti.
Welcome back. In this video for PrettyWell, we're going to talk about how to treat gas and bloating naturally.
So a couple of causes of gas and bloating are our nutrition, what we're eating, and a really big one is also how we process stress. So I often tell patients that if a bear is chasing you, your body should run. It's a very normal response.
Completely.
So you don't want to just be sitting there if the bear is trying to come after you. However, when you're running from the bear, the body isn't thinking about pooping, sleeping, having sex, or digesting your food. I mean, think about if a bear is chasing you, the last thing you're going to be thinking about is, I think I'm going to sit down and have a little meal right now.
That's true.
And yet we don't realize that often that bear is chasing us all the time in our modern world. So whether that be your kids, traffic, work, your friends, your family, all our responsibilities, that's no different from that bear. And yet we're trying to run from that bear and eat food at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's really common. I know I've been guilty of this from time to time, to be eating on the go.
All the time. I hear it all the time.
Absolutely. I live in Los Angeles. I see people eating in traffic in their cars all the time.
Yeah.
So running from that bear, driving in traffic, eating our food, or eating at your desk, not taking time out. We often kind of have a stereotypical vision of Europeans and think, oh, they take these leisurely lunches, but there is some truth to that. That in America, in the States, we tend to really eat on the go a lot.
Yeah. Or eat while stressed. You're reading an email that's super upsetting and you're eating your lunch.
Yeah, we will, even if we're not in the car, how many times have people sat at their desks and been on the computer or still doing work? So definitely stress is a huge contributor to gas and bloating and how we're digesting our food and what happens in our digestive tract.
Because we don't make enough enzymes and digestive juices when we're stressed. That function just turns off when we're stressed.
Our belly says, we're focusing on running from the bear. We're not focusing on breaking down food.
Yes.
So a couple of causes, definitely stress and nutrition.
Yeah, and so on the nutrition piece, what can we do? We can think about modifying what we're eating. So some really common triggers that will promote more gas and bloating are things like eating too many refined sugars and starches. So one of my patients was eating like bags of dried mango. I was like, oh, there's that culprit. So just kind of figuring out what we might be eating that's causing fermentation. So the starches and sugars are going to cause fermentation.
And don't forget that even though it's a fruit, dried fruit is a really common cause of gas.
Yes, super high in sugar. And then also, some people don't think about like the starches in vegetables, even like a broccoli stem. That can be super hard for some people to break down if they're not making enough digestive juices. And so, you can take digestive enzymes to help you out as well. There's different kinds of digestive enzymes, and some will be focused a little bit more on enzymes that break down plant proteins if it's more of a starch problem. If you're having a lot of proteins and you're also noticing that, gas and bloating is coming from that, you do a couple things. You can try preparing, meats in a way that they're broken down more easily. So like a stew would be an easier to digest form of meat. But you could
I
also
love stews.
Me too. If I could have one food, it would be super stew. Always.
Just FYI.
I know. But so you can also take digestive enzymes that have ox bile or HCl in them.
Hydrochloric acid.
Yes, thank you. That will help.
Sometimes she likes to talk like she's a doctor.
I forget. Sorry. So there's some strategies in terms of the food. And then, sometimes we can also play with some foods that will help us upregulate our production of stomach acid, like apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, so instead of or in addition to these enzymes Dr. Angela mentioned, sometimes you can just take organic apple cider vinegar with the mother. So Bragg's is actually a brand that I really like.
Me too.
And you just take half a teaspoon in about anywhere from 4 to 8 ounces of water, about 10 to 15 minutes before meals. What I do is actually, because I get a lot of bloating, I mix a few teaspoons in a little water bottle and I carry that with me, and then I just drink a third of that before every meal. And don't make the same mistake that my naturopathic friend up in Canada did, where she was carrying around a bottle of apple cider vinegar in her car and the whole thing spilled and the entire car smelled like vinegar. So we don't want that happening. But yeah, just pre-mix it, carry it around with you. And it's really great if you're eating out, because I often tell patients, order your food, Food comes in about 10-15 minutes, so drink the apple cider vinegar then. And what that does is a couple of things. It upregulates, as Dr. Angela said, your own natural hydrochloric acid, the stomach acids that break down food. But it also trains the body, if you do it regularly enough, almost like a Pavlovian response that the body says, oh, apple cider vinegar, food is coming. I'm gonna actually make more of my own juices to help break it down. So it does a couple of different things, and you can take it with enzymes if you need a little extra help, or sometimes you can just try the vinegar.
Yeah, and one thing to note about fluids, so a lot of times people like to have a lot of fluids with meals. If you do that, that will actually dilute your own digestive juices too. So if you're struggling with gas and bloating, you might try having water, you know, separately from your meals versus having a lot of water with your meals too. Another thought.
That's a really good point. Absolutely. Another really good treatment for gas and bloating is probiotics. So the good bacteria that we need to feed our own microflora and our good gut bacteria that helps with our immune system and breaking down food. And, you know, a video on all of our microflora is a whole other topic.
Huge video. We'll do that one next.
That'll be coming down the pipeline. But all of our good gut bacteria are responsible for so many different things, including breaking down our food and helping us ferment and digest and helping with our immune system. So making sure that all of that the good probiotics are there and ready to go and helping us.
Yeah, and we can take it in food form, like we can have, you know, kombucha or sauerkraut, and that's a really good food source of probiotic. And we can also supplement with really good quality probiotics.
Yeah, you should see my fridge right now. It's full of kombucha that a friend made for me, and Dr. Angela has seen it.
I had some; it was delicious.
Lots of fermented foods and kombuchas and all sorts of everything pickled and fermented. You can
love it. So good for us too.
So lots in there.
But so we want to also be mindful of prebiotic too.
Right. Yeah. So prebiotics are the food that feeds the probiotics or the good bacteria. And it sounds like a good thing.
Totally sounds like a good thing.
You want them to grow and you want to give them food to actually make them grow. But sometimes that can cause gas and bloating, right?
Because sometimes, you know, we have an overgrowth of certain other kinds of microbes that are not as helpful, and that feeds everybody. So the other guys sometimes make that gas. And so when we take a prebiotic, things like FOS or inulin or chicory, those can be food for all of the gut bugs. So until we get things balanced out, sometimes it's more helpful in the beginning to just take a probiotic straight without the prebiotic.
Yeah, so it just becomes like a buffet where you just feed everybody, right?
Exactly.
So we want to only feed the good bacteria.
Yeah.
So that's really important to remember.
Yeah, so speaking of that, you know, if you've been working on stress and you've been working on the right diet and you're still really struggling with gas and bloating, this is where we want to maybe take a look at what other kinds of microbes might be growing. So you could see your naturopathic doctor and do some testing for something called SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And you might also do, you know, a 3-day stool panel or something to look at what the microbial balance looks like further down in the intestine. So
and those would be a more comprehensive, individualized treatment plan that, you know, is more targeted towards you. So if you're already doing, like Dr. Angela said, if you're doing a lot of these changes in your diet and, you know, cutting out the dried fruit and all of that, you know, this is like totally separate, and I should have said it earlier, but back to the diet, one other thing to consider, especially if you're doing low grains and low carbs, a lot of times people will do a lot of sugar alcohols like xylitol.
Yes, that's a great point.
And that causes a lot of gas.
That's
so a lot
great
of
point.
Foods that have sugar-free things, or a lot of foods that are sugar-free often are substituted with xylitol, or people who have diabetes.
Or maltitol or erythritol, any of those sugar alcohols.
Any of the alls, anything that ends with an OL is often a sugar alcohol. So even gums and mints and things like that. So keep that in mind, because I've actually made that mistake and thought, what is going on?
Yeah, especially when people start like baking or doing like replacements, like huge amounts of the sugar alcohols, you can really get into some interesting situations.
So sorry to get a little out of order, but going back to the diet, so keep that in mind as well. But yeah, the probiotics, prebiotics, the nutrition, you know, talk to your naturopathic doctor if you're doing all of these things and it's not working, and you might need a little extra boost and a little extra support.
Yeah, and ladies, one extra area to think about is hormone balance. So Women who are menstruating, if you're in your second half of your cycle and you're just constantly feeling bloated, or if you're perimenopausal, hormones are transitioning, or if you're menopausal, these are all time periods when our progesterone levels can be particularly low, and low progesterone can be a reason for chronic bloating. And so it may not be digestive, it may be hormonal.
Yeah.
So another area to think about, and look at that with your naturopathic doctor or integrative doctor if you know you're not getting anywhere with the stress and the nutritional stuff.
And this is, I just want to point out, working with a functional medicine doctor, a naturopathic doctor, someone who's really focused on getting to the cause is going to work on looking at different systems in your whole body instead of just the digestive tract. So, or the digestive system. So this is a perfect example of, it may be your hormones. It may not actually be your nutrition at all. And you might be frustrated being
like I've
so
been eating
hard.
everything I've eaten my whole life, and now why am I having this problem? I haven't
Exactly.
changed anything. We hear that a lot.
Yeah, so I think this is a prime example of working with someone who can support you and help you and really peel away the layers of the onion to get to, why is this going on with you? But in the meantime, if you haven't tried any of these things that we've talked about, this is a great place to
start with the basics always, and then if you're not having complete resolve with these basic tips, that's a time to seek someone out who can help you look a little bit deeper and figure out where is this stemming from.
So hopefully you have found this helpful. Give some of the treatments that we mentioned a try, make some of these changes. And if you enjoyed the video, definitely share with your friends and family and anyone you know who might be experiencing a little gas and bloating. And
check out the description box below, because we'll always put more helpful information for you there. Definitely share with us if there's other things you've learned that you want the community to know about. And we'll see you back here soon. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks.